tell community stories. We stand to decolonize false narratives and promote narratives and ideas that heal our land. We propel the just transition. This is HOMEF TV, your #1 environmental space.
Hello and welcome to the news segment on HOMEF TV. I am Kome Odomo. First, the highlights. Building people's power for regional action. HOMEF build capacity of CSOs on renewable energy. Advancing climate justice awareness using arts and tools. Birthing a national consensus for socio-ecological justice. Now the news in details. The Niger Delta Alternative Convergence, NDAC, was first established in 2022 by activists and community leaders after a careful examination of socio-ecological realities of the region. The process examined the over 6 decades of natural resources extraction in the region and how it has shaped the existential realities of the people. The third Niger Delta Alternative Convergence witnessed the resolve to commence a campaign for addressing the critical socio-ecological concerns of the region and make a case for restorative justice. Eseli Ojanelu completes the reports.
The Niger Delta Alternatives Convergence, NDAC, was established as a pan-Niger Delta forum for conversation, strategic decision-making, and action. The Niger Delta, unarguably, is one of the most polluted places in the universe. On this premise, Health of Mother Earth Foundation, HOMEF, with other CSOs and people of the region, established the Niger Delta Alternatives Convergence in 2022 as a space for the peoples of the Niger Delta, including the different ethnic nationalities, leaders of thoughts, traditional institutions, academics, faith-based organizations, and community people to converge and have conversations around environmental, ecological, socio-cultural, climate change, and livelihood issues in the region, and to provide practical recommendations that will restore the despoiled environment and the dignity of the people. In his welcome remarks, the executive director of HOMEF, Nimo Bassi, emphasized the need to break away from neocolonial extractivism. He noted that the Niger Delta region has been treated as a sacrificial zone since the early 1950s up until date, noting the extreme negative impacts of oil and gas extraction and massive deforestation.
We also want to escalate these issues to be in the forefront of everybody so that they know that, look, issues of divestment, if we allow the oil companies to sell off this onshore pollution, because the pipelines are rotten, these locations are burning. Roro 1 is burning for more than 4 years now. The flames have not been extinguished. The oil well at Okrika has been burning for 5 months now. Nothing is being done to stop it. If we allow them to leave this amount of disastrous impact and move away, then we are sentencing our people to death.
We're all aware that the oil industry is divesting. They have polluted the Niger Delta beyond words. Unarguably, the Niger Delta is seen as one of the most polluted parts of the universe. And so it is more of our burden as citizens, as people who are from that particular region, to raise our voices, design ways out of it, and ensure that that does not happen. We must have our environment restored. We must at least get our best voices and ensure that we are ahead and ensure that the nation is compelled, in fact the world is compelled, to hear our case and restore our environment before anybody takes a step away.
The keynote speaker, Professor Ibibia Loki Worika, in his address titled Almost 7 Decades of Hydrocarbon Extraction, Imperatives for Socio-Ecological Justice in the Niger Delta, stated the lack of proper environmental accountability and integrity on the part of the oil and gas companies operating in the region. He further buttressed with emphasis the colossal damage to local inhabitants' environmental and human rights. Giving their goodwill messages and interventions, participants affirmed the need for the government to go beyond early warnings.
We are all aware that there is a current, call it a paradigm shift from
fossil fuel extraction to renewable energies, because fossil fuels are generally alleged to be responsible, or rather contribute to global warming and eventually to climate change. And that this possibly underscores why in Nigeria you have a situation where the major multinational oil companies are gradually also wanting to divest their assets and operations from the Niger Delta. A number of them in other jurisdictions are actually into renewable energies and all that because they want to continue to remain relevant.
The whole place is devastated. All the story buildings that were built in the 60s, 70s, they've all been destroyed. But when it comes to solid mineral, nobody bothered. They allow individuals to do their mining. But in our case in Niger Delta, it is stealing. So within ourselves too, when we are going to blame the federal government, we must do internal self-reassessment. The situation is extremely very bad.
We are ready to take this message down to other parts of this country. To say that what is happening in Niger Delta, like somebody said, if there is no Niger Delta, there is no Nigeria. At the same time, if there is no Niger, there is no Delta. And if there is no Delta, there is no Niger. So there is a way in which there is a symbiotic, relationship between these two regions. The poverty in the north, for instance, has a way of implicating on even the peace in the Niger Delta. The crisis of the Niger Delta has a way of implicating in the crisis or the disturbance of even the Middle Belt.
Oil spillage is part of the problem in my community. In fact, it's a normal thing. When we were growing up, we used to think it's part of the provisions of God in the ocean. We didn't know how bad it was until we started losing livestock, our nets. When they come in contact with them, after a few period of time, they will just be breaking away. What we have in my community is sea rising above buildings and destroying. We have lost 80% of our land. Extinction is our threat, not just environment being destroyed. Our environment, our land, our homes, our industries are being wiped away.
The character of oil extraction in the Niger Delta region has been very reckless, very highly polluting. About 429 tankers of crude oil are spilled into the creeks, the swamp, and lands of the Niger Delta region.
The convergence raised several resolutions which state that the demands contained in the NDAC manifesto must be taken to the grassroots as a rallying demand in the Niger Delta, while calling for Nigeria's energy transition to be centered on community consensus to be just and sustainable. Polluting companies must carry out ecological remediation, and the impact assessments must be carried out on the environment, health, and social life of the people. Esele Ojanelo, HOMEF TV.
The need for an all-inclusive energy transition where the rights of community people are respected and recognized as critical stakeholders in the renewable energy discourse and not deprived access to a sense of democratic procedures that recognizes all spheres of society without discrimination led to the capacity building workshop. The one-day capacity building workshop was geared towards building and equipping the capacity of community people and other stakeholders to understand the renewable energy discussion deeply. Stanley Egolo has the reports.
Representatives from a wide range of communities, government ministries and parastatals, including the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Nigerian Maritime and Safety Agency NIMASA, and staff of the Rivers State House of Assembly were in attendance. The urgent need to rectify the damage caused by years of fossil extraction through a transition to clean and just energy was a key focus. In a compelling paper presentation titled Fossil Fuel, Environmental and Climate Justice and the Needed Transition, Dr. Boma Amaso, representing Professor Fidelis Allen from the University of Port Harcourt, underscored the pressing need for a paradigm shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy as the global temperature continues to rise. Speaking on renewable energy perception in Nigeria, project lead Fossil Politics at HOMEF, Stephen Oduwari, revealed some findings about the renewable energy discourse in communities. Some of these issues raised centered on climate change, trauma, hunger, and unemployment, amongst others.
You might feel that what we are doing here is nothing, but it is something. However, sir, you have a responsibility to take this information back to your constituency. It is when you fail in your responsibility, or I fail in my responsibility, that we can now say that we are not doing anything. By the time I go back to my community and tell those chiefs that signed therein, thereafter, that when next a company is coming, we need to ask certain questions. How do we balance it? They're bringing money. Let them also bring renewable energy sources. It is when we go back and do that that we can now begin to see the footprint of the effort we are making here.
We are not disputing the fact that government is trying to do what they ought to do, because these are constitutional responsibility. I stand to be corrected. They are there because of us. They are there not because of them. And that is why we want anything that needs to be done. There should be public hearing, participation. Nigeria is not about one person. It's about the collective. It's about the whole of us. And that is why we are having these conversations. That is why we are bringing people from the government, bringing community people, bringing different stakeholders for us to really deliberate on issues. And we think that that is how things should be done. So that at the end of the day, when these things are implemented, I should be able to hit my chest and say, yes, I contributed to the process.
Every stakeholder has a valid viewpoint on how to make progress. That's the truth. Whether you're a man, you're a woman, whether you are an adult, you are an elder, you are a youth, you are a child, you have a valid contribution to the conversation that's ongoing on how we can move forward from the fossil fuel era to a clean energy system that is fair to everyone.
Communities are considered the richest in energy sources, but the poorest in energy access. At the end of the event, participants charged all government arms to put more effort into improving awareness and actions on the subject matter. Every stakeholder, especially community people, needs to be engaged while discussing energy transition. Stanley Egolo, HOMEF TV.
Maiden edition of the Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternative Convergence, NSAC, brought together CSOs, academics, and socio-cultural group leaders that discussed the adoption policy of a national advocacy document, the Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternatives Charter, a call for action. The charter emphasizes ecological justice, people's participation, sustainability, and accountability, solidarity, and partnership as its core principles. Concerned with the burden of impact on communities and the need for urgent action, Health of Moderates Foundation, HOMEF, bettered the Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternative Convergence as a space for a national conversation around existential issues and galvanizing actions to address them. Odudu Abasi Asuko completes the report.
Nigeria is confronted with several critical ecological challenges that affect its population's well-being. These challenges are caused by several factors, including a long history of reckless mineral extraction, unregulated and unplanned urbanization and industrialization, poor policy development and implementation, and climate change. The Nigeria Social Ecological Alternatives Convergence has identified a web of interconnected struggles that span from the northeast to the northwest to the south. These issues, including drought, desertification, flooding, deforestation, and pollution, are not isolated problems. Recognizing their interconnected nature is crucial in devising comprehensive solutions. Nimo Bassey, in his welcome address titled "Time is Running Out: Imperatives of an Alternative Nigeria Socio-Ecological Agenda," exposed the environmental crimes and human rights abuses happening in extractive communities nationwide. Bassey noted that the state and federal governments are undisturbed by the negative impacts that plague communities. Professor Zachary Anga Gundu, Vice Chancellor, University of Nkara, Nigeria, established the nexus between climate change, food crisis, migration, and conflicts, noting that these must not be treated in isolation, Nigeria's peculiar climate challenges. Professor Chinedu Nwajuba, to corroborate and attempt to address the keynote question, examined why the Nigerian environment and natural resources are being exploited and destroyed.
First of all, we are analyzing the ecological challenges of Nigeria, and we take note of the fact that every segment of this country has a peculiar environmental problem. And so it's something that is democratized. We believe that by tackling the environmental crisis of Nigeria, we can actually unite the nation. Because then we revive the means of livelihood for all Nigerians, and they'll be able to live in clean, safe environment that is suitable for our development. So the alternative we're talking about, number one, is that we cannot keep on depending on extractive ideas of extractivism, believing that we have to dig the wealth out of the ground to be able to survive. The way we've continued with mining and oil extraction has damaged Nigeria to a very large extent. For example, the tin mines of Jos were never remediated and never restored. People are still being impacted today.
The world is sick because people are profiting from what we are doing. And the profits are insane profits. They are crazy profits. They are not ordinary profits. They are profits that are extremely crazy. And because they are extremely crazy, we seem to be valuing profits over something. And it is immaterial whether you are talking about mineral exploration. As long as people are getting the minerals from the ground, how they get it doesn't matter to them.
And one of the impacts of climate change is that farmers now become confused as a result of no pattern. You can't really come out and say rains will start here and end here anymore. That's not about farmer confusion.
A panel of experts dissected the existential challenges of desertification, floods, pollution, drought, mining, and deforestation. The economic history of Nigeria and the role of resource extraction were the core interests, which delves into the historical perspectives of Nigeria's experiences with mineral extraction as well as Nigeria's core economic history.
The responsibility is on us to save the environment and to save ourselves. One common thread is that in all these are corporations that are just there to make profit. I said this each time we did food campaign and GMO campaign that if our decision-making table in Nigeria, and we turn Nigeria to a country producing organic food to the entire world, we don't need fertilizer.
About climate change and development. It is not about climate change and the people. It is not about the motherland and the people that live in that motherland. It is about what they can grab. Because if they have exported, they now see that fossil fuel is no longer bringing in the profit and the resources that they want for their personal pockets. If they now see that even the other sources, the extractives, is also becoming very dangerous or also becoming threatened, then what are the other ways they can do it about them?
The situation we have found ourselves in this country is that the interest of the ruling class is not just there. Because you know Nigeria is not a country that is cohesive. And no matter policy that you bring in to ameliorate this problem, there are those that are prepared to sabotage the country. And when I was contributing, I made them to know that the present structure of Nigeria, no matter the well-intentioned policy that government will bring in, it will not actually succeed.
Several resolutions emerged at the end of the conference, including taxing governments at all levels to go beyond the routine announcement of impending floods without any corresponding assistance for communities to relocate or survive the floods. The government should enforce existing legislation criminalizing the pollution of water bodies, including through exposure to hydrocarbons or waste dumping. Regarding GMOs, the government of Nigeria should take a precautionary approach and reverse the commercialization of GMOs. The people demand the immediate removal of patent rights from all plant seeds and food. Oduda Basiasuko, HOMEF TV.
On Ikike Digest, we address challenges faced by local communities that arise from exploitation of nature's resources. We ask the question, why are people hungry, and expose the false premises of modern agriculture, biotechnology, and food aid. We interrogate ideas, concepts, as well as government policies and decisions skewed against public good. Join us as we engage experts across the agriculture and environment sectors. Welcome to HOMEF TV, your #1 environment space.
The Eco Group session witnessed a vibrant and dynamic gathering that emphasizes the significant role of artistic expression in promoting environmental consciousness. Health of Mother Earth Foundation, HOMEF, through its youth desk, held an innovative and engaging session with young environmentalists on the theme Pollution and Global Warming. The session brought together youths from various campuses to raise awareness and advocacy against environmental degradation and pollution through the use of arts. Onome Etisuru completes the report.
One eventful site was a hands-on art session where participants were divided into groups and tasked with painting pictures that depicted the harsh realities of environmental degradation and pollution. This activity not only allowed the youths to express their concerns and hopes for the environment, but also fostered a deeper understanding of the impact of human activities on nature. The Eco Group session was not just an opportunity for artistic expression, but a powerful call to action for all participants to become advocates for environmental sustainability in their respective communities.
Pollution and global warming, there is a relationship between those two as a concept or terms. We know that from discussion, we found out that pollution is a major driver for global warming. We all describe global warming as, everybody, during the first Eco Group, I think Toby mentioned, she talked about the heat wave that was worrying Nigeria. I don't know, it's almost as if it has reduced or I've gotten used to it. I don't really know. But anyway, we see these changes in our environments. We see these changes that we can feel.
What we no longer see because of gas flares and fossil fuel burning. So this is a picture of the world that we love to see, the environment we love to see.
As the event concluded, attendees left with a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to protecting the earth, inspired to continue fighting environmental degradation and pollution, and engaging the young minds to be cautious of the environment. Onome Etisuru for HOMEF TV.
Residents of Ayetoro community in Ilaje local government area of Ondo State staged a protest calling on the federal and state governments to save their souls and rescue their community from the incessant ocean surge. During the peaceful protest, the protesters had placards displaying different inscriptions such as Save Our Souls, Save Ayetoro Community, lamented the reoccurring sea encroachment that has claimed over 85% of their land. Mora Emmanuel has the details.
People of Ayetoro Community in the oil-rich Ilaje local government area of Ondo State staged a peaceful protest alleging neglect by the state and federal government in the face of a ravaging ocean surge that has rendered over 5,000 people homeless and destroyed critical structures in the community. Addressing newsmen, the traditional ruler of the community, Oba Oluwambe Ojagbumi, the Ogeloyimbo of the Ayetoro community, appealed to governments at all levels to come to their aid, despite the involvement of multinational corporations, which has not only contaminated their waters, but also contributed to the worsening sea incursion. Oba Oluwambe Ojagbumi called on the President, the National Assembly and the Ondo State government to save their community from extinction by building embankments to halt the ocean surge.
We need urgent attention in Ayetoro. Our lands and houses and buildings and shops and industries have all been washed away. We can no longer sleep. We have become refugees in our father's land. We are living in makeshift buildings. We are shifting our houses almost every 3 months. And yet, the sea keeps coming. We make this appeal to government at all levels and the concerned agencies to quickly come to our aid. We don't want the story of 2 contracts awarded and nothing was done. We want a direct job. We want an action concerning Ayetoro shoreline protection. Save our soul. Save Ayetoro now.
Some residents lamented the loss of livelihoods, particularly those whose primary source of income was fish processing. The ocean surge disrupted fishing activities and increased health risks associated with daily exposure to petroleum-contaminated water. The community schools have had to be relocated several times due to the challenges posed by the ocean surge.
One, economics-wise, we could no longer trade because main occupation in this city is fishing. And we women, we could no longer have our kitchen where we dry fish. Our pupils could no longer go to school because the school has been relocated about 4 or 5 times. Yet, where they are now, the sea is already threatening them. Don't allow the glory of this country, I mean our children, to be jeopardized by your deaf ear that you turn to the cry of Ayetoro.
The sea incursion has made many people homeless, and our school now is at stake. The teachers and the students are now losing hope because the 4th building is now at stake. So we are pleading our governments to save our future.
Learning environment that we are in now, which is the 4th place that we are, has already been near to the sea. That whenever the waves comes up, it affects us to the extent that many students run to their houses to save their life. And I'm begging the federal government, the local government, and the state government to work together to save this community and give us a conducive learning environment. Save Ayetoro, save our soul.
My house are already broken. My house is my drinking vessel. I can't gather my children up to now. We are not together. Even to my wife, we are not together. Because I'm an old man. I'm 77 years old now. I can't go and work to gather money and build up another house. Being that I can use to gather all my children in the same place. Anytime they came, we always be voting for them. Always. We pay our tax. We also vote for them. But when they come, we vote for them. They go. We cannot see them anymore again.
Requested a massive fit-for-purpose embankment along the shoreline, informed by the community's recommendation and scientific research. They expressed willingness to support the government's rebuilding efforts and to expedite the process. They appealed to state authorities to speedily mitigate the burden of the ocean surge on vulnerable residents, particularly the elderly, who have now reached the limits of their coping capacities. They also urged the NDDC, the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, and other relevant agencies to come to their aid.
You've been watching the news on HOMEF TV, but before we go, we'll take the recap. Building people's power for regional action. HOMEF builds capacity of CSOs on renewable energy. Advancing climate justice awareness using arts and tools. birthing a national consensus for socio-ecological justice. Thank you for staying with us. I am Kome Odomo.
Tell community stories. We stand to decolonize false narratives and promote narratives and ideas that heal our land. We propel the just transition. This is HOMEF TV, your #1 environmental